Welcome to Neville Manifestation, where we don't just talk about changing your life, we help you step into the version of yourself who already has. If you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming, make sure you join our membership and be part of a community that's learning to claim their reality with clarity and confidence. Right now, as you're listening to this, another version of you already exists, living the exact life you've been hoping for. Not in the future, not someday, but in this very moment. The only difference is you haven't fully recognized yourself as that person yet. What if nothing you desire needs to be created at all? What if it's already done and all that's left is for you to claim it? Good evening, my friends. Tonight, I want to take something you believe for most of your life and completely tear it down. Not slowly, not carefully, but all at once. Because this belief has been quietly costing you more than you realize every single day. The belief is this: that what you want doesn't exist yet, and it's your job to somehow create it. That the life of wealth has to be built, that love has to be attracted, that healing has to be produced. It feels so obvious, so logical, that questioning it almost sounds ridiculous. But the truth is, it's not just a little off. It's entirely wrong at its core. Tonight, I want to show you something different, something that once you truly understand it, will change the way you experience desire, manifestation, and reality itself. What you desire already exists, not as a possibility, not as something waiting to happen if you get everything right. It already exists as a finished reality, complete and real right now, in the deeper level of consciousness where everything begins. You were never meant to create it. You were only meant to step into it. To really understand this, you have to start seeing reality in layers. Most people only recognize one layer, the physical world. The world of objects, bodies, money, things you can touch, measure, and see. It feels like the only reality that matters because your senses confirm it. But this layer is actually the final stage, not the starting point. It's the slowest and most solid expression of something that was already formed long before it appeared here. What you see around you is not the cause, it's the result. It's the end of a process, not the beginning. Between this physical world and the infinite source of creation, there is another level, the level of imagination. This is where most people who practice manifestation focus their attention, and rightly so. Imagination is where you shape ideas, where you mentally step into the feeling of already having what you want, and where you begin influencing your subconscious. But even imagination is not the deepest level. Beneath it, beyond it, and flowing through it is a dimension where every possible version of your life already exists at once. Fully complete, fully real. Not as plans or ideas waiting to be built, but as finished realities that are already happening. Every version of you is there. The version who is successful, the version who is healthy, the version who is deeply loved, the version who is fully aligned and living freely. All of them exist just as real as the version of you sitting here right now. The life you're experiencing isn't more real than those. It's simply the one you are currently connected to. Think of it like a radio. A radio doesn't create the music it plays. The music already exists, being broadcast across countless frequencies all at the same time. Whether you tune into a station or not, it's still there. The radio simply selects one frequency and suddenly that signal becomes audible. Your consciousness works the same way. The life you want, the wealth, the love, the healing is already being broadcast right now. It's not waiting to be built in the future. It's already happening on its own frequency in the vast field of possibility. When you work on manifestation, you are not bringing something into existence. You are aligning yourself with something that already exists. You are tuning your inner state to match a specific reality. And the control for that tuning is your assumption. What you consistently believe about yourself, what you accept as true deep down, determines the frequency you align with. And whatever exists on that frequency becomes your experience in the physical world. So the question is no longer, how do I create what I want? The real question becomes, what am I tuned into right now? Because the moment your inner assumption shifts, your entire reality begins to reorganize itself to match it. Not because you forced it, but because you selected it. And once you truly understand that, manifestation stops feeling like effort. and starts feeling like alignment. This is exactly why I've always placed so much importance on assumption. Not because it's some clever trick or technique, but because it is the actual process by which you select your reality. You are always tuned into something. Every moment, without exception, your consciousness is aligned with a certain version of life. So the real question is never whether you are choosing from infinite possibilities. You are. The only question is, are you choosing deliberately, or are you letting your habits and circumstances choose for you? Now let's address the most important question that naturally comes up. If all these realities already exist, if the version of your life where you are abundant is already complete right now, then why aren't you living it? The answer is simple, and once you truly see it, it becomes impossible to ignore. You're tuned to a different frequency. You're not experiencing abundance because your attention, your reactions, and your identity are consistently locked onto your current situation. You look at your bank balance and see that it's low, and without realizing it, you reinforce the feeling of not having enough. You notice the absence of a relationship, and you deepen the feeling of being alone. You feel discomfort in your body, and you strengthen the identity of being unwell. And then the physical world, which is always the final reflection, continues to mirror that exact state back to you with perfect accuracy. This isn't punishment. It isn't life working against you. It's simply the natural function of reality, like a radio playing whatever station it's set to. And here is the truth that can change everything for you. You can switch the station right now, not later, not after something improves. Right now. You don't need proof, you don't need permission, you don't need anyone else to cooperate. You shift by changing your deepest assumption, and when that shift is real, your reality has no choice but to follow. But this is where most people get stuck, and it's so subtle that they think they're doing it correctly when they're not. They try to adopt a new assumption while still holding on to the old identity. They say they are wealthy, but deep down still feel like someone who lacks. They try to feel healthy while still seeing themselves as sick. They attempt to believe in love while still identifying as someone who is alone. That inner split cancels everything out. At best, it creates short-lived results that quickly disappear. Because you can't be tuned into two frequencies at once. Consciousness always locks onto the one that feels most real. And that's the key. It's not about what you repeat on the surface. It's about what you are being at your core. The real shift happens when your identity changes. I once worked with someone who had spent years trying to attract financial success. He had done everything: visualizations, affirmations, gratitude practices. He was consistent, disciplined, and still nothing changed. So I told him to stop trying to get money. Instead, I asked him to understand something deeper. In the field where all possibilities already exist, there is already a version of him who is financially abundant. That version is not waiting to be created. It's already complete. His only job was to recognize it and choose it. Every morning, I asked him to close his eyes and do something very simple. Not imagine, not force belief, but recognize. To acknowledge that right now, in the dimension where all realities exist, there is a version of him who is already wealthy. That version is real. It exists just as much as the version he had been living. And instead of trying to become that version, he began to identify as it. Throughout his day, whenever old patterns showed up, checking his account, feeling worry, slipping into the habit of not enough, he reminded himself of something important. What he was seeing was just the leftover result of a previous state. It was the echo of an old frequency. He didn't deny what was in front of him. He just refused to let it define who he was anymore. He stayed aligned with the version of himself he had chosen, regardless of appearances. Within a few months, things began to shift. Opportunities came in unexpected ways. Money showed up through channels he hadn't planned for. Not because he forced it, but because his internal state had changed, and the outer world had no option but to reflect it. This brings us to something crucial: time. In that deeper level of reality, where every version of your life already exists, time doesn't function the way we think it does. There is no waiting, no sequence of before and after, no gradual becoming. There is only being. Everything exists at once. Every version, every outcome, every possibility is present right now. And what you experience is simply the one you are aligned with. So when you change your assumption, you're not creating a future, You're stepping into a reality that already is. And once you truly understand that, you stop chasing and you start choosing. All realities exist at the same time, right now, in a single timeless field of consciousness. When you really sit with that, you start to see something that feels almost shocking at first. The life you want is not waiting somewhere ahead of you. It is not sitting in the future waiting for the right moment to arrive. It already exists now, fully formed. The version of you who is living your dream life years from today is not being created step by step. That version already exists in this deeper dimension, just as real and complete as you are in this moment. The only reason you are not experiencing that life is because you are not yet identifying with that version of yourself. And this shift in identity is not something that slowly builds over time. It happens in a single moment of true recognition. A moment where you genuinely accept, that is me. Not the person I hope to become someday, but the person I choose to be right now. The outer world may take time to reflect this change because it moves slower. It has to catch up. It's like an echo following a sound, or frames of a film playing out one after another. But the decision, the actual selection of who you are, can happen instantly, dismissing. And the moment that shift becomes real within you, the process of change in your physical life begins immediately. Not because you created something new, but because you aligned with something that was already there all along, waiting for you to choose it. So what does this look like in daily life? It's actually very simple. It doesn't require complex rituals or long practices. It comes down to one thing: consistently identifying as the version of you who already has what you desire. Not the version who is trying to get there, not the version who is still working towards it, but the version who has already made the selection and is simply living from that decision. Think about how that version of you would move through the day. When they wake up in the morning, they are not wondering if today will be the day everything changes. They already know the decision has been made. There is a quiet certainty in them, a calm understanding that what they chose is already theirs. When situations show up that seem to contradict that reality, they don't panic or question the process. They recognize it for what it is: leftover evidence from an old state, an echo from a previous identity. And instead of reacting to it, they remain steady in who they now are. Their inner dialogue is different too. It's not filled with doubt, hope, or constant checking to see if things are working. It's not anxious about time or outcomes. It carries a calm, settled confidence, almost so natural that it feels ordinary, because to them it is already done. And this is important. You cannot fake this. You cannot perform it on the surface while feeling something completely different underneath. Your deeper mind knows the difference instantly. This is not about acting like someone else. It's about genuinely shifting into a new sense of self. And that shift is available to you the moment you truly decide to claim it. When this truly clicks for you, when you deeply understand that what you want already exists and you're not here to create it but to choose it, something inside you begins to relax. The pressure disappears. The anxiety around, will this work, starts to fade. Because now you're no longer trying to force something into existence. You're simply allowing something that already exists to show up in the physical world, which always moves a little slower. And that kind of waiting feels completely different. It's no longer desperate or tense. It feels calm, certain, like you've already placed an order and you know it's on the way. You're not questioning if it's real. You're just giving it time to arrive. And I want to leave you with the deepest truth behind everything we've talked about. That infinite field I've been describing, the place where every possible version of your life already exists, is not somewhere outside of you. It's not a distant realm you need to reach. It is you. You are not just a physical body occasionally tapping into something higher. You are infinite consciousness. And this life you're experiencing is simply one expression of that. One version among countless others that already exists within you. All possibilities are not out there waiting to be found. They are within you, waiting to be recognized. So when you shift into a new reality, When you truly identify with the version of yourself who already lives that life, you're not reaching outside to grab something. You're uncovering something that has always been part of you. You're allowing a different side of yourself to come forward. Every possible life you could live already exists within you, like a vast collection. You're not searching for it, you are it. And whatever version you choose to step into, whatever state you decide to live from, is already complete, already real, already yours. All that's left is for you to claim it. So tonight, before you go to sleep, do something simple but powerful. Decide who you are. Choose the version of yourself you truly want to be, the one who is abundant, healthy, loved, free. And instead of imagining them as someone far away in the future, recognize them as real right now. Feel them as already existing. See them as a frequency that is already active within the infinite field that you are. Then claim that version of yourself, not with force, not with doubt, not with the urgency of someone trying to get it right, but with a quiet confidence, with the calm certainty of someone who understands they are not creating anything new. You are simply selecting from what has always been available to you. And when that recognition becomes real within you, watch what begins to happen. The physical world will do what it always does. It will adjust, it will reorganize, it will reflect the shift you've made within. Because once you change your inner state, the outer world has no choice but to follow. Good evening, and this is Neville Manifestation. I'll see you again in the next one. Stay with this idea a little longer, because the real power of it is not just in understanding it once, but in returning to it until it becomes natural. At first, your mind will keep trying to go back to the old way of thinking, trying to fix things, trying to force outcomes, trying to figure out how something will happen. That habit has been built over years, so it doesn't disappear overnight. But every time you notice it, you have an opportunity to gently come back to the truth. It is already done, and your only role is to remain aligned with it. You start to notice something subtle. The more you identify with the version of yourself who already has what you desire, the less reactive you become to your current circumstances. Things that used to trigger fear or doubt begin to lose their grip on you. Not because your life has fully changed yet, but because you no longer see those moments as final or defining. You recognize them as temporary reflections of an old state that is already fading. This is where real stability begins. You're no longer riding the emotional highs and lows of external conditions. Instead, there's a steady inner knowing that doesn't need constant reassurance. It becomes easier to trust, easier to stay calm, and easier to move through your day without questioning everything. And something else begins to shift too: your actions. Not forced action, not action driven by fear or urgency, but natural, aligned action. You might feel inspired to do certain things, reach out to certain people, or make certain decisions, but it doesn't come from a place of, I need to do this to make it happen. It comes from a place of, this feels like the natural next step for who I already am. That difference changes everything. You also stop overthinking time. Before, time felt like pressure. You were watching the clock, wondering when things would change, feeling like you were falling behind. But when you understand that the reality already exists, time becomes irrelevant to your identity. You're not waiting to become that person. You already are that person. Time is just the unfolding of what you've already selected. There will still be moments where doubt tries to creep in. That's normal. But instead of fighting those moments or getting frustrated with yourself, you simply return to your chosen identity. You remind yourself quietly and firmly that what you are seeing is not the final truth. It's just the last echo of who you used to be. Over time, this way of being becomes effortless. You don't have to remind yourself as often because it starts to feel natural. Your inner conversation changes without effort. Your reactions shift automatically, and the version of you that once felt distant begins to feel familiar, like it has always been you. And then, almost without noticing exactly when it happened, the outer world begins to reflect it. Opportunities appear, situations change, people respond differently. Not in a forced or dramatic way, but in a way that feels almost obvious, like things are simply falling into place. That's when you truly understand this isn't about controlling life. It's about choosing who you are within it. And once that choice is made at a deep level, everything else begins to organize itself around that decision. So instead of asking yourself what you need to do next, begin asking yourself something much more powerful. Who am I being right now? Because that answer is always determining what you experience next. And the more consistently you return to that awareness, the more clearly you'll see that you were never trying to create a new life. You were simply remembering the one that was already yours. This is the simplest truth. Nothing you desire is missing, delayed, or being created. It already exists within you, complete and real. Your only role is to recognize it, to step into that version of yourself with quiet certainty and claim it as who you are now. When that inner shift becomes genuine, the outer world has no choice but to reflect it in its own time. So stop trying, stop chasing, and start being. Because the moment you do, everything you've been waiting for begins to move toward you.